Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I hope everyone enjoyed their long weekend, and we're off to a great start. At this time, I will ask everyone to stand for the pledge and the prayer, but we'll start with the prayer, and then I will refer to Mr. Shamley for the pledge after Mrs. Marson Fair completes her prayer. Thank you.
Let us pray. Our Father, we pause to give you thanks for our many blessings and amazing opportunities to make an impact throughout many generations. Grant us wisdom, patience, and courage. Unite our voices as we speak for educational opportunities for children throughout Greenville County. Multiply our gifts of faith, knowledge, and time, allowing us to create a multitude of opportunities that generate success. We all pledge to work toward the common goal and prayerfully ask for these requests in your name. Amen.
Mr. Shamley.
Charlotte Welsh is a senior at Malden High School and is an active member and commanding officer of the Navy PROTC unit, where she is also captain of the 2020 State Champion Air Rifle Team. The recipient of the Daughters of American Revolution Freedom Award, she has logged over 1,000 community service hours during her life. Charlotte plans on attending college as an NCAA air rifle athlete with an ultimate plan of serving our nation as a member of the United States Marine Corps. Charlotte's mom, Nicole, happens to be a wonderful teacher at Malden High School, and we're glad to have her as well. Charlotte, would you please lead us in the check pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Charlotte, just stay right there. Mr. Shamley, you want to come down and take pictures. This is a big day, a big night, because when you're famous, I'm going to have this picture somewhere. I'm going to say, I knew her when. We're going to ask your mother, who teaches special ed at Malden High School. And we want to get in front of the flag, and we'll get all these people behind us. And if anybody, all the other board members, if y'all want to stand right back here, we'll get a picture with Charlotte and her mother. I want to stand on the other side. Let's do this. Okay. There you go. And will you please invite us all to the White House? Thank you. Good luck this year. I don't know how you're walking with all this, but thank you for all your service and thank you for all you do. And as well as your mother. So Malden's the best. Thank you. All right. Also, when we talk about recognition, I'm just going to stand right here because we have our 10-year, and I'm going to ask Mr. Sailors if he would be so kind as to come down as we present 10-year pin to Ms. Lisa Wells. And congratulations. Ms. Wells, congratulations on achieving 10 years of school board service for Greenville County Schools on behalf of the officers and the staff of South Carolina School Board Association.
Yes,
And we have our president right here. Thank you.
We have the time gone.
I know. Well, I could read this, but you probably will rewrite this.
What are we doing?
Now, where do you want us? Right here. All right, Lisa.
Do this right here.
I'll rewrite for you. Thank you. Thank you, Lisa. Congratulations, and thank you for serving. Also, that was 10 years, but then you double that, and you come up with Dr. Cristobal O'Connor, who has 20 years. So with that being said, okay,
Her back in here with us.
come on back.
Come back,
here.
Lisa.
Oh yeah, your sister. She wants her sister back here. Here's your pen. 20 years. Do you want to sit here?
Yes, I do.
Okay, let's go to the 10 and 20.
30, almost. Back to this section.
Sisters. Thank you. And here's your pen. Where's the honor? And thank you all both so much. I could just make up. And I'd also like to say that the South Carolina School Board Association sent all of us our pins for being on the school board, and we just want to thank all those in recognition for the school board this month. Recognition of a lot of teachers and principals and children have sent us cards and so forth, and we're very, very appreciative of your acknowledgement as we acknowledge all of you for all you do for our students and our children.
Thank you for making it the shape of a crystal ball.
Well, you know, I just couldn't get the cue, but I did get that. So, at this time, I'm going to ask Ms. Wells if she would be so kind, because we have one visitor, if you would read this while I go get my glasses.
Okay, welcome to those who have signed up. We have one speaker tonight. Thank you for being with us. When we call your name, you can go to the dais. And there's a microphone system and light system. You have 3 minutes to speak. The light system will be green for the first 2 minutes, and then will turn yellow. And as you all well know, the board policy KCA says that there will be no abusive language or personal attacks aimed at students or staff members. All speakers are expected to behave in an orderly and respectful manner. The board will not engage in discussion with the speaker or respond to comments, and the superintendent will designate a member of the staff to respond to each speaker in an appropriate and timely manner. And I don't think we're going to have any concern tonight, because we're going to ask Mr. Terrell Brown to come up and be our speaker. So, come on, come on up.
Oh, whoa.
Superintendent Royster, Chairwoman Ms. Linda LaVentuswell, members of the board, and guests in the audience. My name is Terrell Brown. In addition to proudly serving as a second grade teacher at Charity Elementary School, I'm the president of the Greenville County Education Association, which is the local affiliate of the South Carolina Education Association, which is the SCA. The month of January marks the annual observation of School Board Appreciation Month. At times, to salute the work
Appreciate it.
school board members that serve in public education. We have a day to recognize and thank you for all that you do for Greenville County Public Schools. We recognize that school board members play a unique role in promoting and advocating for quality public education, and the decision made here directly influence instructions in our schools. We must ensure that our direction prepares all students to be competitive in a local, state, national, and global economy. To quote, "Don't let what you cannot do interfere with what you can do," by John Wood. After traveling throughout South Carolina through our work on the national level, members of the GCA have learned, seen, and have discussed with many districts who are struggling to provide teachers a competitive salary, struggling to reduce class sizes for our children, and struggling to keep public schools intact when outside entities are encouraging states to pull the very bricks from those public schools in the name of education reform. GCA wishes to thank you for continued advocacy and preservation of our children, our education, support professionals, our teachers, and our public schools. We thank you for leading South Carolina by raising the starting salary for teachers to $40,000, ensuring at least a 5% salary increase for all teachers and at least a 4% salary increase for other employees. We look forward to your continued leadership to provide a competitive compensation for all employees. Thank you for your work in reducing elementary class sizes and for providing daily planning instruction. Among your accomplishment, we also thank you for your continued work to increase access to school counselors and school psychologists. We know that in light of many accomplishments in 2019 at the local level, your work continues in 2020 to provide a quality public education and to help teachers stay in this profession. The Education Reform Bill is something that we are watching as it develops in the legislature, especially when it comes to diverting public tax dollars for our public schools in a voucher system. GCA looks forward to continue to work closely for the Greenville County School Board and district as we face these various attacks on our public schools. As currently, this bill will affect employees, friends, local school board members, as well as the most forgotten people of most, our children. The Greenville County Education Association recognize your contribution to the academic success of our children. We wish to express our sincerest recognition to you, our school board members, for your focus on the well-being and achievement of our children throughout Greenville County. We look forward to our future collaboration together to ensure great public schools for all children, as well as the educators who continually give the sacrifices after hours and even on the weekends. Thank you for all that you do for Greenville County School employees. Keep up the good work, and once again, always brag about how we are making a difference in the state of South Carolina. But remember, we cannot forget those who are not able. Education Reform Bill, SB 19, is something that we are watching very, very closely. We are on our feet trying to get to things to make some things change. But 2020 is going to be a big year, so keep us in mind.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Thank you so much to all of you for sharing with us tonight, and we are very appreciative of all you do. Thank you. So, 3.01, adoption of consent calendar. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
A second?
Second.
All in favor, please address by raising your right hand. All opposed? Motion carries. We just took care of our visitors, and great visitors they were. At this time, we'll move to 5.01, Superintendent's Report. Dr. Royster.
Thank you, Ms. Levinus Wells. Tonight, as my report, it's really more a recognition than it is a report, and that is recognizing the efforts and contributions of our school board. This is obviously National School Board Recognition Month. I think you probably heard me say this before, but I think it's a good time to reflect back upon it. The history of school boards in the United States predates the Constitution, predates the Declaration of Independence. I think the first one was in 1647, in Massachusetts Bay Colony, the first school board. Now, school boards obviously have evolved over that number of years. And one thing that's interesting, if you read some of the history of school boards, that at a point in time, probably in the late 1800s, early 1900s, became more of what we seem to see now as the modern school board. And one of the reasons it evolved was, interestingly enough, to sort of remove it from politics. Prior to that, schools, particularly in cities, were really governed through city councils, city governments, very much subject to partisan politics. And so you begin to see this evolution towards a nonpartisan bodies. Now, there are partisan school boards, but part of that was, and I think it reveals itself in the title, particularly the one that we use here and the one that is predominant throughout the United States. They're not a board of school commissioners, not a board of school managers, not a board of any other type except a board of trustees. Having been entrusted with the responsibility to, I think, arguably carry out the most important function of government, because it is vital to sustaining the form of government under which we all live. We can't have a democracy of any type. We have obviously a representative democracy, but you can't have a democracy of any type without an educated population. And public schools throughout this country and in this county educate more than 90% of students of school age. 10% of them go somewhere else, but 90%. And it is vital to our existence, not only in a democratic society, but in the kind of community in which we want to live, to have an educated population. We all know that all those indicators of a thriving community are directly related to the level of education in that community. If those positive indicators are up here, they correlate with the educational level being up here as well. And if the levels of society that we don't want to reflect, the negative statistics, they're most greatly represented among populations that are not as educated. So it is both a somber responsibility, but more importantly, it is a trust. And we're most fortunate in our community. I'm most fortunate as a superintendent. The 10,000 employees of this district are most fortunate. Most importantly, our 77,000 students are most fortunate that we have a board that does serve and carry out that lofty goal of being a trustee of that which is arguably one of the most important tasks in our society that benefits us today and in the future. So I want to express my appreciation to each of you individually and you as a board for the manner in which you conduct your business, the way that you approach issues, not the fact that you call yourselves trustees, but the way that you carry yourself and the way you perform as a body and as individuals shows that you take very seriously that trust that has been given to you by the people of our school district. I very much appreciate what you do, the hours that you put in, the great thought and consideration that you give to items brought before you, but most importantly, the fact that each of you operate, while perhaps sometimes from differing philosophies, from differing perspectives, from differing ideals, always with the central focus on what you believe is best for our students and ultimately for our community. So I thank you for your willingness to serve. One of the greatest resources that we have, and they tell me it is rapidly overtaking financial resource, but as an indicator of people's commitment and value, that of the investment of time. You all invest in time in making yourselves more informed, invest time in considering issues and discussing issues, and that speaks volumes about your commitment that you're willing to give that which is probably most precious to all of us, and that is to give of your time to carry out these very important tasks. So I thank you for your work. I thank you for your effort. I thank you for your commitment. But most importantly, I thank you for the manner in which you approach your responsibilities as trustees. It's been the tradition that for several years we have also wanted to offer some more visible symbol of that appreciation. And we've done that various ways over the years, and we all have some things that reflect that you're a trustee, some coffee mugs and pens and a vest and shirts. So, I won't say we're running out of things to by which to express our appreciation, but we took a little different direction this year. So it is something for you to wear, but you're not going to get it tonight. For years, it is. It is just the promise of something. It's not actually something. For years, the tradition here has been that the Board of Trustees and the administrators that sit on the dais at graduation wear graduation cap and gown. And for probably all those years, you all have gotten a nice choir robe that has been lent to us every year and, looked okay. So we decided that a nice way to recognize and mark your service would be to kind of step that up a little bit. So we have secured customized, sounds like a very expensive, but not, we're not gonna, we've been sparing no expense, but really we do. It's really nice. It is much nicer than what you have been, lent to wear.
I like it.
All right, and a little bit hard to see, so I have a copy here, and it reflects your degree, so they look a little bit different. And Nancy,
Nice.
through there. So instead of an actual robe tonight, you got a picture of one. Slutta, there's yours.
I like
You'll
it.
see on there, it says Greenville County Schools.
Wow.
Done us well.
Thank you. Very nice.
And at some point in the next few weeks, Ms. Fisher will be in touch with you for a fitting. So you don't get just one of those off the rack. Well, this one looks about like your size right
Is
here.
that why you wanted to know what I weighed?
Much as our
I
graduates,
think I lied when I told you my weight.
much as our graduates experience when they get their graduation supplies, they will, the folks from Perf Jones will come and fit
Very
you
nice.
for that robe.
Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Royster. I will tell you, of all the things I've received, I think I will treasure this one the most. So thank you so
Piece of
much.
paper, or you mean the thing that's on it?
Well, I'm gonna show my husband what I got tonight,
There you go.
and
It does.
I'll take that to my mother. So, great. Thank you so much. That was, thanks for putting so much thought into. Very nice. Thank you. Okay, so now we're going to proceed. 6.01, capital budget adjustment for long-range facilities plan capital improvement program. Recommended motion to increase the LRFP-CIP budgets for Robert E. Cashin Elementary School by $3,800,000 in FY22. High school weight room enhancement by a total of $10,145,750, and technology refresh for Promethean board replacement project by a total of $8 million.
Madam Chair?
Having, not needing a second, I will entertain questions, because this is a motion, and we do not need a second. So, do you have great things to say, Ms. Grayson?
Yeah, I do have great things to say, and I don't say much, but I think this is awesome, and I'm proud to support it. That's it.
Thank you so much, Ms. Grayson. Anyone else? Hearing none, all in favor, please address by raising your right hand. All opposed? The motion carries. Thank you. 6.02, renewal of lease agreement of Old Bryson Elementary School. The recommended motion, action to approve a new lease agreement with the Center for Community Services for the period of March 22nd, 2020 through March 21st, 2025. Recommended motion coming. It needs no second. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor, please address by raising your right hand. All opposed? The motion carries. Okay. Resolution on 2020 census. Recommended motion to approve the resolution on 2020 census as presented. Coming from the Committee of the Whole, it needs no second. I'm sorry, it came from advocacy. I thought we were on a roll, but we're not. So I will entertain a motion,
Yep,
but
the committee recommended.
I have a second. Okay, any questions? Yes, sir.
I just wanted to speak to this motion. So this came from the advocacy committee. This is really part of a community-wide effort to make sure that all of our local municipalities and local elected officials are really endorsing the concept that participation in the 2020 census is really critical, not only for us to appropriately count our students and our young people, but also to make sure that all of our adults are counted in our community. And so it's just a real good intersection between policy work and the school district. So the advocacy committee discussed this, and the resolution that you have before you came from that committee, essentially just encouraging students and families and our staff to participate in the census. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from Mr. Lewis? Hearing none. All in favor, please address by raising your right hand. All opposed? The motion carries. Point 04, Proposed Internal Auditing Services Master Audit Plan. Mr. Barber, would you like to speak to this?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Chairman. We're presenting our proposed 2020 Master Internal Audit Plan through June 30th, 2020 for your approval. This year's plan consists of the completion of the following approved projects: purchasing cards, student activity funds analytical for the year ending June 30th, 2019, student activity funds extended daycare program, student Chromebooks, and Berea High School. This plan also includes deleting the risk management project. In addition, we are adding the following projects: the student activity funds analytical for June 30th, 2020, and the warehouse physical inventory at June 30th, 2020. Again, we are presenting this for your approval, and that concludes my presentation, Madam Chairman. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Ms. Wells?
So, Mr. Barber, the risk management audit, had you guys already done some work on defining what that looked like? Hadn't you done a little bit of work on that or not? Am I remembering that wrong?
We have. We met with a couple groups, and there really wasn't anything physical for us to audit.
Okay, so the deletion's just because you don't think there's a substantive body of
Exactly.
work and processes?
There's not any data really for us to look at this time.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Lewis?
I appreciate you sending us, so just a clarifying question. So we've got two columns. We've got existing projects already approved, and we've got proposed master audit plan to 6/30/2020.
Yes, sir.
So are the audits that are listed under the existing projects already approved also planned to be completed by 6/30/2020? Or are those not in our plan to have completed by 6/30/2020?
You know, I'm looking at that, and it looks like I budgeted those out, and it looks like we're about 500 hours over budget through June 30th, but, you know, we might be able to complete those. I'm hoping that we can complete those by June 30th, 2020.
So by
On the ones on the left, yes, sir.
okay, so by approving the new audits, we may actually bump existing audits off the list of audits that will get completed? Because we're approving a new group of audits.
We won't start those until after.
So we expect these other 5 to be completed.
Yeah, well, those will be completed first,
Okay,
yes, sir.
got it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, Ms. Wells?
Yes, ma'am. I move to approve the proposed master internal audit plan for the 2020 calendar year to June 30th, 2020.
Is there a second? Any questions? All in favor, please address by raising your right hand. All opposed? And the motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Barber. 7.01, Internal Auditing Service Project Status Report. Mr. Barber?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. This is a list of projects that we're currently working on, and we've identified the status of those particular projects. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Barber? Any questions? This must be your lucky night. Can you believe that? Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on. Okay, so Ms. Michelle Goodwin-Caldwell?
Mr. Barber, I'm looking at the report, and you took off risk management, and it looks like it's only, 3 other items that are not 100%. So you basically only have 3 items that you're really doing, plus the 2 that you just added.
Yeah, we couldn't take that risk management off until it was approved.
Yeah, but I'm saying once you take it off, you still only have 3 others that are not at 100%. So you only have 3.
Well, we have the extended daycare program that hasn't been started at all, so there's no percentage completion on that one. And also Berea High, there's not a percentage completion noted on that either. So yes, purchasing cards is 95%. Student activity funds is 60, and student Chromebooks is 10. And then the student activity fund extended day, we haven't started that at all, so there's no percentage completion of that one. Likewise with Berea High, that one's moving on, but we just haven't put the percentage of completion on that project.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing none, thank you so much, Mr. Barber. I hope you have a nice evening. We will move on to 8.01, Committee Liaison Reports. Ms. Wells?
Well, I thought, Ms. Leventis Wells, it'd be great if Mr. Sailors might speak a little bit about the activity of the SCSBA. If he could.
President, Mr. Sailors, South Carolina School Board Association.
Thank you, Madam Chairman.
You have some.
To be perfectly honest with you, I was taking a different approach on this report until about 5 minutes ago. We all know that there's been a piece of legislation introduced at the beginning of this session and carrying over from last year on education reform. And the School Board Association, along with the caucus, have taken a position that there's at least one critical point of this legislation that is not acceptable. There are many pieces of the legislation that would be, I think, productive for public education. Some concerns have been shared by our teachers, but when it comes to the School Board Association, there is one provision in the legislation that allows the state superintendent, with the approval of the state board, to remove school boards from office in school districts where they are deemed to be in a state of emergency. In simple terms, this provision would allow a duly elected school board to be removed for a number of reasons. Currently, there are 3 school districts in the state that are under this state of emergency that the state superintendent has gone in and placed new administration into these districts, and the boards in those districts, although still serving in their positions as elected by the community, have no action, no purpose, if you will. They have no need for a meeting. The administration is handling everything. That's one issue. But this legislation allows this process to literally remove a group of duly elected officials from a community for reasons to be determined. There's yet no rubric established. There's no process in place other than the 3 districts that are currently on this watch list were placed there by proviso from the legislature. So there's no common denominator for removal yet. The South Carolina School Board Association and the Black Caucus both have come out publicly saying that the removal of school boards is in fact a violation of the Voting Rights Act of 1965. The 3 districts that are currently on the watch list and 6 others that could be placed on this list if this legislation passes are majority minority districts. Their poverty rates run anywhere from 81 to 94%. They struggle each and every day. And you've got the gall to sit there and say, we're going to remove the board. That's a community decision. It's not one person's decision, rubber stamped by a State Board of Education. Now today, to add insult to injury, Senator Shane Massey in the State Senate's discussion and debate over this legislation, and they ended about the time we started this meeting, said essentially that school boards that pay dues to an association that will fight to allow such bad practices to take place should never happen. That the School Board Association and school boards who support the association are holding up transformative change. He also says, and let me pull this quote up, that a well-run school district should not be okay with defending the status quo and allowing school board members in failing districts to remain. This is not the legislature's decision. It is not the association's decision. It is the community that elected the school board to begin with. There's not another state in this country that has a piece of legislation in front of it that takes such a dramatic position. That's why we're fighting it. Are there problems out there with some districts? Absolutely. Can they be fixed in one way or the other? Absolutely. But to remove school boards from their seats just because the state superintendent doesn't like the way they balance their checkbook or the way that they decide to lead instruction is absolutely wrong. So I am going to continue to ask that our school boards in this state take the position to support each and every trustee in the state to do the job that they were elected to do. And if Senator Massey wants to remain the one and only schoolyard bully in the legislature, fine. But this is a democracy, and what they are proposing is anything but that. So you'll be seeing from us in the near future additional talking points, and I would ask any trustee, any teacher, any administrator, anyone that supports public education in this state to make sure that this does not happen. There are other ways to correct these problems, but the wholesale removal of a board is not the answer. I had a conversation with one of our delegation members last week, and the response was, well, you know, this is not about Greenville. This is not about Greenville. One election can change the dynamic of any board in this state at one time. It might not be about Greenville today. It could be about Greenville 10 years from now. We just don't know. And this legislation, and this component of this legislation is just absolutely wrong. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Sailors. Dr. Cristobal O'Connor.
Thank you, Chuck, for that. And I think that at the conferences, we've communicated the position of this board very strongly in support of what you said. Isn't it also true that boards have their own mechanisms for addressing issues with, let's say, a particular board member, or, you know, we have our own way of managing ourselves that should be respected?
Yes.
It is not as though if somebody did something really outrageous, they couldn't be checked on it, but it would be the board doing the checking, not the State Department of Education or someone else, correct?
Well, we've implemented this year a new program on boardsmanship, if you will, that we hope to generate a conversation among trustees that can go outside this room to other elected bodies on just common sense approaches to civility. And that's a new thing for the state association, because to your point, yeah, there are some boards in this state that there's some friction on the board that needs a little love. And that's not a problem. That can be fixed. As far as an individual trustee or any individual elected office holder, if they're indicted or convicted of crime, the governor can remove them. We actually have members of the state senate that believe the governor has the power to remove a board, a school board. Totally incorrect. They're not engaged. And what I guess frustrates me is in the House side, when the original 84-ish pages of legislation was originally passed, 4 people in the House voted against it. Everybody else voted for it. Whether they're a member of the Republican caucus or the Democratic caucus, 4 members of the House voted against it. Everybody else voted in favor of it. That tells me nobody's reading it. Nobody reads it or understands it. When a long-term member of the state senate goes, this is not about you, they don't get it. They're passing legislation because the state superintendent wants this bill. So the state superintendent has the authority to remove trustees that are getting in the way.
In addition to that, don't we have work to do with people at the State Department of Education to get them to understand how unhelpful it is to school districts to have that right taken away of duly elected people?
We have expressed our concerns on multiple occasions, and I can tell you, unfortunately, and with our friends in the room from the South Carolina Education Association, we're on an island by ourselves. The SCEA, Palmetto State teachers, the school administrators, they all are supporting the bill with reservations. That's a polite way of saying, I don't want to piss off the state superintendent. We're the only ones that have stood up and said, this doesn't smell right.
As the president of the State School Board Association, couldn't you ensure that boards are offered other kinds of support besides civility, but just on the kinds of things we teach to say, here's how we can help you do a better job of setting a vision, setting policy, doing the budgeting?
We've given the State House Education Committee a format for mandatory training. Currently, once you're elected to a school board position in the state of South Carolina, you're only required by state law to attend one training. That's your initial orientation. So from that point on, you're not required to attend another single training in your service.
Wow.
You've been on the board 20 years. I've been on the board 18. We've all been on this board for a long enough time to have participated, but we've done it at our own decision. We haven't been required to do it. Where a lot of the problems exist, it's a one and done trustee is what I call it. They came in, they did their orientation, they never darkened the door again. And to your point, there are things that they could learn if they were exposed to some of these issues. We are working on face-to-face delivery, electronic delivery. Those are all pieces of this comprehensive program that we certainly hope that they will accept in the future. But to be a teacher requires continuing education, an administrator, a magistrate, a nurse, a doctor, a barber. They all require continuing education. why not a school board trustee? We manage the largest public budgets in our communities.
That's probably the last thing some of them think they need to afford to pay, when it might be the most important thing they could do for their district.
That is a valid point.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Wells?
To ask, does anybody know, do our legislators have required training that they have to go through before they take on the role of leading the? I think one of the problems I see with this is you're setting a different standard for elected school board trustees than any other elected official that there is. And so again, a legislator, they just have to get elected, and then they can go and set the budgets and make regulation and put laws in place, but yet they're turning to school boards and saying, well, we don't care that your community supported you and elected you to represent them and to speak about what is important in education in your community. If the state doesn't think that's right, we're going to take it out. And I think the slippery slope, to your point, Chuck, about Greenville, is that right now, everybody goes, oh, well, we wouldn't do that in Greenville. But imagine if they did. The Greenville community has long set a standard that we want more out of our education system than what might be average for the state. That's not good enough. And that is why when this board has to come back every year and make millage adjustments to make up for state deficits and to do those things to push education forward, we do that. And yet a lot of us sit here with long tenure being reelected to these seats because we're willing to make those tough decisions and do those things to be sure we have a higher level of education. So the problem is, Dr. Royster tells us when we do budgets, it's a 2/3, 1/3, right? The state's responsible for 2/3 generally. We've got some funding differentials, but state's supposed to provide 2/3 and the community 1/3. Well, if you remove school boards, then suddenly you've taken away that voice of education advocates in deciding how those local tax dollars are spent. So there's just a number of things that really makes this a bad idea, a bad way to think about governance of our education system. And I'm glad SCSBA took the leadership to dig into it and to fight it. I hope we can show some legislators why it's not the right thing. And honestly, I wish they would quit talking in sound bites about, one specific person they heard say one thing, that I only go to, whatever it is. They're taking small pieces instead of looking at the collective body of school board members and the number of us across the state who spent many years spending a lot of hours to make our education system better. So thanks for your leadership, Chuck.
My pleasure. And Dr. Royster, on a personal note, I appreciate the robe, but could you get me some body armor? I feel like I need that too. But it's a pleasure serving, but it's disappointing to see who you thought you were friend, who were your friends that are not in this particular case. The funny thing about politics is your friend today or yesterday is your enemy today, is your friend tomorrow. So thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Yes. I would just say, and this is probably off the subject matter, but this school board before you tonight has fought diligently to make sure that we get teacher raises, and we work hard to make sure our classrooms go down in numbers, and the list goes on and on. Whereas in Columbia, our governor will say, I'm going to give every new teacher $3,000 or whatever, and it's going to be, we're going to put it in the budget every year. But it doesn't get that way. And when they give you that $3,000, you know who has to come up with the budget to make that sustainable for our district? We do. And then we increase the millage rate because it's not election year for them to look good. But it makes us look like we're increasing the millage rate on a decision that they've mandated for us, for you. But we follow through with our promises to you. And we do it with honor, respect, integrity, and we're ethically sound. And this board, you will not meet a greater group of people anywhere. You have elected great people and a superintendent that fights for you every single day. And we will always fight for you. And we will always fight for our children because they're going to be in our seats one day. And we want to make sure they are going to fight for their people and their children's children. So when we're honored tonight by all who have brought us gifts, usually Roger won't take any of this stuff, and we hate to do it because then we got to put it on our ethics report. But you know what? It really makes us feel good that you care about us because we care about you every single day. So when we hear about all of these $3,000 things, you know, there's something behind the scenes. If they funded like we were supposed to get for our students, we wouldn't have a problem. Are they doing that? They promised us that, but they're not doing it. My apologies. I can't even sleep at night just thinking about the state, and I hear what they're saying and what they're doing and all the promises, and they fluff everything, and then they put the burden on all of us because it's election year for them, and they want to look good for the moment. Well, if they want to look good for the moment, I want them to look good forever. So follow through. Put the money in the bank every year, and don't say we've gone through, whatever happens during the year, and we don't have the budget for it. So we're going to have to do this and this. We're going to have to take away. No, you promised it. Put it in there. If you put it in, I'm good with it. All right. Now, let's just talk about the budget. Sorry. Let's go to, I'm sorry, my apologies. Got off on that one. Finance report 9.01. Dr.
Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I didn't know you were moving off committee.
I'm sorry, my apologies. I try to be the last. Yes.
One thing.
Yes.
On behalf of Ms. Bush and myself, and you can chime in if I leave anything out, but just as a quick update, we interviewed all day yesterday community members, parents, health professionals, and what other category? And clergy for the Sexuality Education Advisory Committee. And the only group we have not gotten to yet is teachers because we didn't want to pull them out of classrooms. We'll go back and interview the teachers for those slots who applied on their work day. But it was just very exciting to see that we had maybe 85 people who applied to serve on this Sexuality Education Advisory Committee, which is a greater number than any time in all these years of doing this. And it just makes me happy that we've got so many really caring people in this community who care so much about trying to make sure that we get this right. And several of the ones that we interacted with mentioned how important they believe that it is that we are continuing to teach about boundaries and consent and all those things that we've been improving and addressing in our policies. So just wanted to give you an update of where we are. And once we've interviewed the teachers, then we will come back having selected 13 for this committee out of the 85. So it's not an easy job. The staff members handling it have done a fantastic work to pull together the interviewing, and we look forward to bringing back a slate of recommended committee members to you probably next month. So,
Sounds good. Thank you, Dr. Cristobal O'Connor. Mr. Meek?
Thank you. The Committee on the Internal Auditing met this afternoon, just an organization type meeting, and we'll have another meeting in 2 weeks, and we welcome everybody to attend.
Good. Thank you, Mr. Meek. Okay, we'll be moving on to section 9.01. Mr. Royster, Dr. Royster, I didn't mean to take your degree away.
That's right.
Monthly finance
Thank you.
report.
Ms. Stack, do you have a particular report or some items you want to draw the board's attention to in your financial report?
Yes, sir. The general fund financial statements through November show an increase in property tax collections for Greenville County schools, for Greenville County, and when you compare it to last year. And we think this is, the majority of it is a result of the tax notices going out early. When you compare the collections to FY19 November, we're right on line. For November 30th, 2018, we're right in line with those collections. And when we looked back, the tax notices went out about the same time. So that gives us some reasonable assurance that the increased collections is a result of the tax notices going out early. And that's it, and I'm here to take any questions.
Mr. Sailors.
Robin, how much earlier did the notices go out?
Last year, they went out about a month later, November the 20th, and then this year, they went out October 28th.
So my point is when you look at the same point in time last year and this year, and you're saying that the revenue has come in stronger because the notices went out earlier.
Yes, sir.
Okay. What's the fall off in the future? In other words, at some point in time, that revenue spike is going to peak.
It'll level out.
So when does, 3 months from now, are we going to look at a month where that month last year was higher than that month this year because it peaked up? Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
It could be. It depends on when people will pay the majority of their taxes. Normally, we get the majority through January. So January could be a little bit less, but when you look at it over months, it will level out. So if we're looking February, we should see where the percentages are the same.
This
Or
may
similar,
be,
or
that's
similar.
fine. This may be somewhat of an odd question, but we receive the revenue, it goes into our investment pool, correct?
Yes, sir.
We invest that money? Okay.
Yes, sir.
So by this taking place, wouldn't common sense dictate that we might get a little bit more revenue out of the investment than in the past?
Yes, sir.
Hypothetically.
You could think that. However, interest rates have dropped over the last few months. So.
I'm trying to get us every nickel I can get right now. I can think about it all I want to, but the practicality is really not there. Is that what you're saying?
Might or might not happen.
Okay. So our delinquency rate, I know that the county tracks delinquent taxes. Is that about normal, or is it higher, lower?
It's actually lower, and that's another reason that our tax revenue is higher, but it's not a great deal different.
But that's a combination of growth and a good economy.
Yes.
Construction growth.
Yes.
A good economy.
Yes,
okay.
sir.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Meek?
Thank you. Ms. Stack, since you've been here quite a few months now, what's our fund balance, unassigned fund balance?
Okay. As of November, it is $113,160,956.
What's our assigned fund balance? What do we have assigned already of that balance? Committed? Do we already have some of that committed?
Through November, the balance that is assigned came from a prior board action. So it is $68,939.
So our total fund balance is 113 million, and that's the total.
Yes, sir.
Assigned and unassigned.
That's unassigned. Totally, it would be 113.8 million.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Quick question. I guess I'm not real sure how sending out the notices a month early over the long term makes a whole lot of difference, because the next year they've got to go out and so forth. My thought would be that normally is going to just basically balance itself out. So in addition, or besides getting a quicker uptick on the revenues this year because of the earlier mailings, are there other reasons why the revenues are higher? In other words, higher property values, reassessments, whatever they might be out there. I'd be looking more at what's actually driving increased revenue based on the tax base and on that. Do you have any information or facts on that?
Well, the revenue would be higher overall because of the millage increase, but we have an expanded tax base, or what means assessed value has increased from last year also. So those are two, I guess, components of increased revenue.
Those would seem to be the ones that make, the most difference ultimately, because you're either going to pay it this month, it's kind of like your credit card, you pay it this month or next month, it's sort of 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. So I'm assuming that we are getting a significant increase, as you're alluding to there, based on assessments and growth, fee and lieu agreements, whatever else there might be out there. For example, we've supposedly had something like $200 million worth of new investment in the county in the last couple of years. I would imagine those should play a fairly large portion of the increase in revenue. And that was kind of what I was trying to get at. We don't have an idea exactly what.
When new investment comes online or becomes a part of the tax roll, that's when we start receiving the revenue from it. So.
There's nothing wrong with it. I was just trying to figure it out.
Thank you.
Is that all, Mr. Chairman?
That's all. Thank you. I'm sorry.
Anything else? Ms. Wentz?
Robin, do you know, have you calculated kind of where you think we would be now that we've taken the action to sign some of the fund balance? And some of that's going to get moved over to debt service, right? So have you kind of figured out where we are, where that puts us? Because we're going to have kind of a correction in our fund balance, right? What do those numbers look like?
So if you refer to the line graph that's included for unassigned fund balance, if you actually apply the move to the month of November instead of December, we are very close to the other years as far as percentages. So, yeah, it puts us right in line. Now, we did receive our Tier 1 tax payment from the state earlier this year, and so that would make it a little bit higher than prior years just because of the timing of when we received that revenue.
But do we believe, so like with the tax notices and with that, that's not something that we could count on from year to year, that they would actually issue those early, and it just happened to happen this year, right? So
it's just timing.
It doesn't really affect the overall revenue. It just kind of affects when it peaks. And that was really the reason to draw your attention to it. So you wouldn't look at that and compare it to last year and think, oh, well, there's something wrong here. Well, if you look back 2 years ago, when they sent the tax notices at relatively the same time, it tracks right along that line, percentage-wise.
Yeah, and I guess the only thing you could do is if we could count on these early payments, then it might mean you could make some adjustment in what we think we have to carry.
It would affect our cash flow position in a positive way, but you can't know what they're going to do. They got a window that they can send those out in, and Well, I guess last year was an exceptionally late
Yeah.
in that window.
And that's kind of, it just happened this year. It's not that they've changed some practice that this is always going to be the case. It just happened this year, they sent it out early, right? Or sent us payments early in the case of the state.
Kind of going back to the question that was asked before, we were like 123. Overall fund balance in November was
For last year?
No.
Or this year, 113.
And so we drew down like 25 and a half
Yes,
from that.
from that. Yes.
So really, you subtract 25 and a half from 113, and that's what roughly
Right.
our fund balance is now. And to your point, some of that will get transferred over to capital and will disappear from the general fund, appear in the capital fund, and then some will move from unassigned fund balance to assigned fund balance within the general fund.
Okay.
Yes,
great.
sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Before I ask for one last thing, I'm going to make sure that I smell the roses, Ms. Bush, and they smell fantastic. And I'd like to, is it?
I'm going to smell.
Oh, you know what? I love that. I love that.
I'm gonna
And,
smell the cookie, the hell with it.
thank you so much for always blessing us with beauty and freshness. And because at first I thought that was Dr. Royster smelling. I wasn't sure. But thanks for clarifying. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second, all in favor, please address by raising your right hand. All opposed, good night and safe travels home. Thank you.